Well, Betsy, it's great to have you here.
Thanks, Ralph. It's really great to be here.
We so much appreciate what you're doing for America's children to give them opportunity. We believe as an organization that one of the best ways to do that is to give students and their parents an opportunity to choose the best school for that child, whether it's public, private, or religious, or a homeschool. I know you support that. Could you talk a little bit about what you're doing as Secretary of Education to advance that?
I'd love to. Indeed, we believe that every child deserves the opportunity to develop fully to their fullest extent. And we know today that there are too many kids that are stuck in schools to which they're assigned and for which there's no other option. We have an initiative that President Trump and this administration is advancing. It's a federal tax credit called the Education Freedom Scholarships Program. It would establish a tax credit fund at the federal level to which individuals and companies could voluntarily contribute to 501c3 scholarship granting organizations. States would elect to participate, or they could choose not to, but the states that would participate could develop programs to either enhance choice programs they already have in their state or to develop new programs. So we've talked about thinking very broadly about what choices and what education freedom can mean. And we believe that we should think about opportunities like career and technical education, the notion that there are multiple pathways to a successful adult life, and we need to give students every opportunity to explore those. So career and technical education, dual enrollment in high school, charter schools, private schools, faith-based schools, home schools, any kind of education environment that is going to work for individual kids, we think is worthy of support and worthy of the opportunity for parents and students to choose.
Very good. We appreciate it very much. Another issue that's real important to our constituency is freedom of speech and the ability to express their faith. I don't need to tell you that this is a serious issue on the college campuses. We've had episodes, Madam Secretary, where, for example, a young person who was working at a registration table at a college in California was told to remove her cross from around her neck because it might be offensive and might make others feel uncomfortable. We have chapters of ministries such as Young Life or Campus Crusade for Christ who have been told they can't have a chapter on a college campus because they don't agree with some code. I know the President's issued an executive order on this.
Yes.
Could you talk about that executive order and what you're doing to allow people of faith, students of faith, and conservatives to not be discriminated against?
Well, this is indeed a very huge issue, and it is not isolated to campuses on either coast. It is really happening across the country, and it's an issue about which I've spoken very regularly, including at the National Constitution Center last year on Constitution Day. The President has issued, as Ralph said, the executive order to ensure that free speech is honored across the country. Now, how this actually manifests itself is it's a lot in our hands and in our power to continue to insist that all ideas need to be worthy of exploration, and that we are honed and shaped by the exchange of ideas. There are too many campuses today that if you express an idea that is contrary to the accepted one on that particular campus, you are shut down immediately, and too many student organizations that are shut out as well simply because of who they are. So there are a number of things that the administration will continue to advance around the free speech executive order, but we will continue to speak out very freely and openly about the need to insist that everywhere students attend, ideas need to be explored, and the exchange of ideas is what makes us better. too often, I believe, campuses and really society at large has abandoned the notion of truth. And when you don't have the pursuit of truth and the foundation of truth, then we get sucked off into corners that we don't want to be in and we don't want to go. So the executive order on free speech will continue to be a center point to all of our efforts to ensure that campuses are allowing for the free exchange of ideas. But I've also often cited the University of Chicago, the Chicago principles, which they have long embraced and which now other institutions are beginning to sign on to. It's not a code per se, but it's a very clear articulation of how students and faculty are expected to conduct themselves on that campus. And it allows for exchange of ideas and competing notions to be shared in an environment that is civil and that respects one another's viewpoints, no matter how far off they might be, but that allows for that exchange of ideas and the pursuit of truth to happen in an environment that is civilized and that will engage everyone in the discussion.
I mean, given the fact that the federal government is providing directly and indirectly billions of dollars to these colleges, how can they even get away with this?
Well, they can't, and the reality is that there are increasing numbers of lawsuits that I think are going to ultimately result in more clear articulation around the protection of speech. But we hope that institutions will voluntarily come to the point of acknowledging that all ideas need to be welcome on their campuses, and that the ability to express one's faith, one's perspectives are to be respected and to be allowed for.
How great is it to have a Secretary of Education taking a position like that? Another higher education question. There's currently approximately $1.7 trillion in outstanding student loan debt.
Yes.
It threatens to turn into a debt bubble, not quite on the scale of the mortgage crisis, but it's serious. A lot of millennials have gone deeply into debt. There's 44 million borrowers. The average debt is $37,000. I waited tables working my way through, or through newspapers. I came out of college debt-free, but I had to work jobs in between. I don't know why there's so much debt, but it's become such a burden to so many people, particularly when they try to buy their first home or establish credit, that some are now proposing that the whole thing basically be assumed by the federal government. What are you doing?
Which means it's assumed by all of the taxpayers.
Right. Thank you.
2 out of 3 individuals who haven't taken out student loans would be paying for and underwriting the 1/3 that have.
Right. So
it's a crazy idea.
Yeah. What's the answer? What's the policy of this administration, and what are you doing to fix this problem?
Well, this is a multifaceted issue, right? So I think rightfully so, more and more individuals are questioning the value of a 4-year degree, what it's actually bringing, it's actually gaining them. And I saw a study the other day that suggested that 2 out of 3 college graduates, upon reflection, say their degree was not worth what they invested, both in terms of time and resources. So we start sort of with that overlay. But what this administration and what the president has been intent on doing is affirming the fact that there are multiple pathways to success as an adult. And we have too long looked down upon or considered as a second class option many very viable options to a good career and good earning potential. Today we have over 8 million jobs going unfilled, And of those 8 million jobs, many of them don't require a college degree. In fact, the biggest percentage don't. They require some education beyond high school, but not a college degree. So what can we do as a federal government to embrace and support all of those options and pathways for young people today, and to introduce them to them at a much earlier age? I would argue in junior high, students should, middle school, I guess it is, that middle school you should be starting to consider what your possible options are and what you might be interested in. But what we are doing today with the federal student aid framework is going to be very helpful for students that are taking out loans. We are going to have a lot more information at their fingertips. We've already put the federal student aid form on a smartphone. You can complete that on a smartphone today. You couldn't a year ago. And within the next few months, you will be able to have at your fingertips what your student loan balance is. If you are going to draw down more on your loan, what the implications are for long term, and what your paybacks will be. And we are going to really help students with a lot more financial literacy tools to help them make better decisions about what they take on in terms of what program they pursue. Another piece of it is the college scorecard is going to soon have, by institution at the program level, the cost for pursuing that particular program and what your likely earnings potential is based on those who have graduated out of those programs before, what you're likely to make. So we believe it's going to do two things. It's going to make more informed decisions on the part of students, and it's going to also force institutions to take a serious look at programs they're currently offering that may not be very relevant for anyone today.
Okay, very good. Last question. They're giving me the stop sign, but I really don't want to let you go without at least having you briefly address. I know you're a woman of faith. You're somebody for whom your faith is very important to you. And I'd like for you to tell folks how that informs your public service and how it gives you strength in the face of what has been a lot of opposition as secretary.
Well, it really informs everything I do and everything about me. There's not a day or hour that goes by that I'm not reminded of. I think of a worship song that an acquaintance of mine wrote many years ago, but it's called The Audience of One. And I remind myself that I only have an audience of one. And I'm here to serve students because I believe and I know, as all of you do, that every single person is endowed by our Creator and created for something unique and special. And so I believe that my role is to help provide pathways for students and for young people of all ages to pursue what they're meant to do and meant to be. And so that keeps me pretty well focused.
Great. Madam Secretary, on behalf of millions of people all across the country, thank you for your service to our country, to our young people, and we want you to know you have our full, total support. Thank you very much. God bless you, Betsy.
Thank you.
I appreciate it so much.